All right, folks, today we're going to talk about naming acids. So our learning target is to use the chemical formula to write the name of a chemical compound. Okay, so using the chemical formula, we can write the name of a chemical compound, and vice versa. Using the chemical name, we can write the formula for the chemical compound. So how are we going to do that with today's lesson? Let's get to our success criteria. Okay, here we go. Success criteria. I can state the 3 rules used to name acids. I can write the name of an acid, and I can write the formula for an acid. Now, when we start, it's real easy when I have the name to determine if I have an acid, because it will say right at the end of it, acid. So here I have 3 different ones: hypochlorous acid, hydroiodic acid, and carbonic acid. So we're going to go through and we are going to write the chemical formulas for these 3 acids. So as I start off here with the first one, hypochlorous acid, I look at this and I say, oh, right here, I have an OUS. Now, a lot of people get confused with this because they look right here, hypo. Is hypo and that right there, are those the same thing? No, so don't get confused and think that this is hydro. It is not hydro, it is hypo. Now I look at this hypochlorous. I have an OUS ending, so what acid rule am I going to be using? Kira? Acid rule number 2. And Kira, read to me what acid rule number 2 states. Okay, so OUS here, okay? When it ends in OUS, I relate that with the ending of ITE, correct? So I am looking right here for hypochlorite. So I get out my PAL, because I know that an ITE ending is going to be on my PAL, my polyatomic anion, or my polyatomic ion list, and I try to find hypochlorite. Oh, I found it. Hypochlorite is ClO 1-. Now, that minus, okay, that minus right there is very important because it tells me how many hydrogens I need to go with that, okay? How many minuses? 1-. So that tells me I am going to need 1 hydrogen. So when I write out hypochlorous acid, it's HClO. Final answer. Questions on that one? Let me clean this up here a little bit. Now let's look at the second one, okay? The second one. Now, I have this little saying that I've used for a few years. It helps me remember things, and that saying is IC 1 or 3, okay? Just real quick, IC 1 or 3. What does that mean? I see, me, I, Braun here. I see, I can see an IC. If I see an IC, it tells me that I'm dealing with 1 or 3. All right? So I need to check. Do I have hydro? Absolutely I do. So IC 1 or 3, it tells me I'm doing rule number 1 or number 3, so I check for a hydro. Do I have a hydro? Yes, I do. So this is acid rule number 1. Okay? Acid rule number 1 tells me that I'm dealing with an IDE ending. So I look, and I don't use my hydro, I look for my base, and there's my base, IOD, IDE ending. So I'm dealing with iodide. I look on my monatomic anion list, and iodide is 1 minus, correct? I 1 minus. So how many hydrogens do I need to go with this? Just one. So when I write the formula, HI, HI is hydroidoic acid. My third one here, down at the bottom. My third one here, let me raise that up here a little bit. Let me clean this up. I'm going to use that area. Okay. My third one here, IC, 1 or 3. IC, 1 or 3. Do I have a hydro? I do not, so this is acid rule number 3. Acid rule number 3 says when I have an IC, I'm dealing with an ATE ending, right? So I am looking for carbonate. I'm looking for carbonate. Carbonate is on my polyatomic ion list. It is CO2, check, CO3, 2 minus. So as I see this, I have a 2 minus charge, so how many hydrogens am I going to need here? Okay, how many hydrogens, Kaylin? 2. I'm going to need 2 hydrogens. So I write H2CO3. Now, do you see any charges there? When I put this box, are there any charges on there? No. But do I know what the charges are? Yes, I do, but I don't include them when I write these out. Now, for the naming, okay, the naming one here, these next 3 we're going to be naming using the formulas. So when I see the H, okay, anytime I see an H leading off everything, leading off the formula, it's going to be an acid unless I'm dealing with water, because water is H2O. Okay, so that's the only time we're not going to use an acid to name something that begins with H. So I look here and I say, okay, does it begin with H? Yes, it does. So I'm dealing with an acid. I need to find what this anion is. So as I look on my PAL, SO3 is sulfite. Right? Now, what rule am I dealing with here? Acid rule number what, Paige? Acid rule number 2 tells me that if I have an ITE ending, I take the base of the word and add OUS, correct? Now, this is a funny one, and there's a couple of funny ones, okay? This is a funny one because when I take the base of the word, that SULF, okay, somehow, somewhere it says this doesn't sound right, so they put the UR back in it, okay? And you just have to memorize that. You just have to memorize that. So this is sulfur, and now I add my OUS. Sulfurous, and to finish things up, I have to write the word acid. So H2SO3 is sulfurous acid. My second one here, H3BO3. I see the H starting things out, so I know I'm dealing with an acid. I'm trying to find BO3. I look on my ion sheet. Can I find a BO3? Absolutely I can. Now, this gives me a little hint here, right? How many hydrogens do I have? 3 of them. So what charge, where should I be looking for charges? 3 negatives, right? So I'm looking at my 3 negatives, and I find BO3 to be borate. Now, Tyler, what acid rule am I using here? Rule number 3. Rule number 3 says if I have an ATE ending, I take the base of the word and add an IC. When I'm finished, I write the word acid. So H3BO3, ladies and gentlemen, is boric acid. Now my final one down here on the bottom, okay, HF. Okay, HF. I look and I say, okay, I'm looking in the -1s for what F is. It's not a polyatomic ion, so I'm not going to look at POW. I'm going to look at my list of common ions under my monoatomic anions, and I see that F is fluoride. Carly H., what acid rule am I dealing with here? Rule number 1, because rule number 1 says if I have an IDE ending. So I'm going to take the base. I'm going to add IC to it. Rule number 1 also says that I need what on front of it? Hydro. So I have hydrofluoric, and I finish up with writing the word acid. Hydrofluoric acid. That's acids right there, folks. If you know your 3 rules, you should be golden. Okay? If you know your 3 rules, you should be golden. Thumbs up? Thumbs down? Thumbs middle? We good? Carly, you in playing? All right. Okay.